Hi, my name is Recky, and welcome to the uh, episode number 5 of Share Your Story. Share Your Story is all about men and women sharing the story with us. No matter if you were a combat medic, a cook on a ship, active or veteran, we want to hear about it. Check description for more information on how to apply. My guest is from America, and we're about to hear his story. His name is Daniel. How you doing, Daniel?
Hey, Ricky. I'm all right. Hello, listeners.
uh, you have a story to tell, and I want to hear it. So I think we should do like we always do in this podcast. We're gonna start from the beginning, and I'm gonna let you carry the word here from here. How did it all start from you?
Uh, well, I grew up in the South of America, Alabama area, and I guess most of the guys here we believe in the military. And you should go and serve. It's just something you do. It's kind of like raising a family, correct? You just do that deal. And I've always wanted to. Always loved the military, and turned 18 and I went.
So
That's pretty
directly,
much. I wanted to go blow stuff up and travel the world. I don't know.
yeah, you want to blow stuff up. So you just the same day that you turned 18, you replied, or
Oh no, it was later on. I
okay,
don't remember the exact date or
yeah, yeah.
whatever, but there's a process. You apply, then you go to the MEP station and take your physical and your test, and then you have to come back and there's a few more, like maybe another couple of months, and they call you back, and you go back down and pick your job and then go.
So what did you pick?
Do you want to start the story here? Because that is a bit of a story, actually.
Yeah,
You always hear your parents tell you stay in school, or
yeah.
else it'll bite you in the butt when you're old. And nobody believes that. But I quit school in 10th grade, and I got my GED. Now, when I went to the MEP station, is what it's called, to do the test and the physical, I actually scored 97 out of 100 on the ASVAB,
Oh,
and I had some pretty good line scores too. To where if I had had my high school diploma, I could have chosen any service and any job, pretty much. But since I had my GED, I did not go to the Air Force. I went to the Army, and I did not fly a plane. I was on an Abrams tank. So I had 5 jobs to choose from because I did not finish school. So kids, finish school.
that's a good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you
So
choose M1 A1, is that correct?
yeah, they gave me the choice of infantry scout, which is like a Bradley fighting vehicle, an
Yeah.
armor crewman, the Abrams, a cook, a bilinguist, or just regular infantry. And the coolest job of those sounded like armor crewman. And so I was like, well, I guess that's the one I'm going to pick. And so that's what I did.
So you picked is it
Armor,
classified as a tank? It is, right?
yeah, that's the main battle tank.
Yeah.
Armor crewman is designated as a 19 kilo. And at that time, previously it would have been the M60 back in Vietnam or the M48
Yeah.
Patton,
Yeah.
but currently the M1 A1 was uh, I guess the model Abrams was out at the time, and that's what they put me on.
That's a beast of a tank, isn't it?
It is a beast of a tank. I enjoy the fact that we can eliminate the target before they even know we're there. You know, like for example, if it's the middle of the night with no moon, I can tell if you shave that day off the light of your cigarette.
Yeah. But that's because it's a highly modern uh battle tank, isn't it? It's super modern.
I believe when it first came out with the 80s and the 90s, it was extremely modern for those times. Now, I think other countries are kind of caught up by now, and maybe the playing field is a little more equal than it used to be, but I still consider the Abrams the best tank, if not, top three in the world.
So what kind of feeling did you have when you first realized that you're gonna go into this beast?
Uh, well, I guess we went through all that in basic training. And so I'm trying to think back my initial reaction. I just thought it was cool. I
Yeah.
saw this thing and I'm like, I can't believe I'm about to, work on this because that's usually just what other people get to do.
Yeah, some
And
stuff you watch on TV, right?
yeah, but I
Yeah.
will say that when I first saw it, it was all business.
Right.
I went to basic training and AIT, which is the advanced individual training, and mine was 16 weeks long. And so from day one, when you saw the tank, your drill sergeants were there, and there really wasn't a whole lot of time to be giddy and everything. It was, he had a task involved, ready for us right away. So it was kind of business right from the get go.
Yeah, and it was your job, so you took that super serious. So, like I said, you can't go around and being giddy like a schoolgirl on that part. I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
So 16 weeks. So you
Yeah.
said
16
advanced
weeks.
individual training. That's what you said?
Yeah.
Advanced.
Let's say you're just a regular guy and you're going in the army, and an armor crewman, just that particular job has OSIT, which is one station unit training. And so for that particular job, they do basic training and AIT all at the same time. So you have you have your drill sergeants all 16 weeks. It's a longer, everything is twice as long, but you do it at the same time. Whereas, let's say you're going to go in and you chose communications for your job or whatever. Well,
Right.
you'll do your 8 weeks of basic training, and then you'll go to a different unit to do 8 weeks of your advanced individual training. So pretty much everybody that goes in the military will have an AIT, just depending on what the job is, whether you do it for a longer period of time, with your basic all at once, or they split it up into two halves.
Okay. That makes sense. So after 16 weeks of training, then what happened?
Well, I went. I believe I took my family leave like in the middle of my basic training, which was a week. For the people that didn't take those, they got their week after basic training. But for me, I got on a plane the day after I graduated and flew to Korea.
Oh,
And it was a 16-hour and 40-minute flight, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very long flight. A bunch of guys got out of basic training. I believe we got drunk, went to sleep, got drunk, went to sleep, and then woke up and got off the plane. It was a long flight.
yeah, yeah. But you had fun on the plane. Well, you slept most of it, so
I slept some of it, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what do you do? What was going on in Korea? What year are we talking now?
Okay, so that was 1997. I went to basic in 96 of November and was in basic through March of 97. So nothing really was going on, I don't think. Now, give you a little history about Korea without taking too much time here. We're actually still at war in Korea. There's never been a peace treaty signed. June 25th, 1950, uh, the North and South started fighting, and there was an armistice. There's a ceasefire, but there is no peace treaty. So nothing really goes on in Korea because it's all docile. Uh, I guess we're there for presence. If we leave, no doubt North Korea will say, "Well, your big brother's left town. I guess it's
Yeah,
time for us to start trouble again."
yeah.
So everything is kind of, I guess you would call it a stalemate. We mind our business, they mind theirs.
So the thing the word is deterrence. Is that
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
American presence is a deterrence. Just
yeah.
just our presence. No, we don't need to threaten anybody. Just for us to be there is pretty much uh, the whole mission is just to be there.
So you went down there to Korea and you were in Abrams.
Yep. I went to 172nd Armored Battalion. It was in Delta Company. That's Dragon Valley, and that's the where the battalion was. And my company, we called it First Tank. Who you with? First Tank. Anytime you hear somebody yelling, "Who you with?" Somebody somewhere is going to yell First Tank. It just kind of lets everybody know, "Hey, man, we're down here." And we got buddies around, especially when you're off post out drinking. And I may refer to drinking a couple of times. I'm not a big drinker, but back then, I guess that was what everybody did.
Yeah, I get
So
that. I get that.
yeah. So I don't know, where do you want to start? There's so much to tell about the Abrams. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. The first thing is that you just tell me and everyone is listening what you feel like you want to talk about. There's no limitations. So just you can start from what happened in Korea. What did you
Okay.
do?
Well,
Yeah,
uh,
patrolling or something. Yeah, go.
so the Korea is a third world country, and there's a smell when you get off the plane, and you notice it immediately. It's not a pleasant smell, and I don't want to be gross here or anything, but it's a pretty bad smell. And the reason for that is they don't really have a sewer system there. Everything just kind of flows down into the creek, which we call Doo Doo Creek.
Yeah.
So anytime you go through a water ford or anything like that, and you're going through basically the stuff that is unpleasant.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I recognized because it was so present. Um, we went to the field a lot. We trained all the time. We would go out in the field, which is where you just go out and sleep in your tank, and do gunnery and all that. And we would go out for 30 or 45 days, and then we would come back, and probably 2 or 3 days later, they would blow an alert, which is like the tornado sirens. And it doesn't matter where you're at, you have to stop what you're doing and go load up again. So we basically lived in the field the whole time. Um, Most of my stories come from the road marches going to and from. Um, I can't remember exactly what part. Let's say, I'll give you one real quick, and I don't want to dilly here. It had been raining for 2 or 3 months, and they have a rainy season there, and all the rivers were swollen and flooded. And my tank in particular had a mine plow on front of it, and I'm not sure if you know what those look like, but it basically digs into the ground a few inches, or you know, quarter
Nice.
of a meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it peels the dirt out and it pushes it to the side so that you could make a road for all the vehicles behind you. All right. Well, when I went down into this water crossing, we couldn't cross the bridges; were too heavy. I pushed the water away from me real fast because I went into the water real quick, and the water came rushing back, and it went up over my head. The driver's hatch was open, and I was sitting up out of it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
water was over my head, and so at this point, I don't know what to do. So I just like gunned the throttle. Right, I just maybe I could push out through it or whatever. So I did, and there was so much water, and when the tank kind of rocked back forward, all the water that had went into the turret came back out. So I'm underwater again, but this way from underneath. It was kind of crazy. The
Oh,
entire inside of the tank was soaked. They had water up to their knees, inside the turret, and we flipped our bilge pump on, tried to suck out a lot of that water to where at least it wasn't in the turret, but the inside of the hull still had water in it. All right, so this had happened to a few of our tanks. Say there's 64 tanks in this convoy, right? There's a lot of tanks in one big long line, and then you got our Bradleys and the Humvees and the fuel vehicles and the ammo trucks and the recovery. We're miles long. Well, let's say it was nighttime. This is the same road march, and we're going through Seoul, and it's just an average Friday or Saturday night. And to paint the picture, it would be like New York City. People are shoulder to shoulder walking past each other on the sidewalks. It's very busy and packed. Well, they all have to move out of our way, and they did not like that because they're all drinking and trying to party, and they dress up. They have nice suits on and dresses and everything. Well, here we come, and they start throwing stuff at us because we're ruining their night. And they're throwing beer bottles, and it turned into a bit of an American protest. And it got to where at one point a guy had stumbled into the tank in front of me and
oh,
almost got run over. And this is a long road march, and it's a tactical road march. And so if you get in front of the tank, we can't stop, right? Because that puts all of the vehicles at risk.
yeah.
And we're off post. So that kind of freaked us out that we almost had to run over a guy. And so we flipped our bilge pump on. Now, this is the reason I was telling you about Doo Doo Creek. So the inside of this turret is covered in water that is not sanitary. And it's not just my tank. All the tanks are like that. And so we flip our bilge pump on and we start spraying these people down with this nasty water. It was, I don't know. It's hard for. I wish you were there to see it because
Yeah.
they were not pleased. They went scattering, but we ended that little threat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It. I don't know. It's. I could ramble on, man. It's probably
Yeah.
best I stop,
No.
take a break.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that, but you were really close to running over a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He. I don't know if he was drunk or he lost his footing or whatever, but he went to throw something. Maybe it was a rock.
Yeah.
And threw something at the tank as we drove by, and he stumbled and he hit the number one track skirt.
Oh.
If you have a picture of an Abrams,
Yeah.
you'll see that the track skirts, the front one is a little bit longer than the rest of them, and that's got reactive armor. And he bounced off of that. He like
Oh.
shouldered into that, and if he'd have got a foot under that track or anything, it would have really been bad news. And it would have been a headache for Americans too, because how do we explain that? Then you've got to reason with can you stop, not stop. And anyway,
That had to be like a split decision in that part, and any way you decided to do would probably cause
well,
something really bad.
I remember 1-4. It was Sergeant Samuels. He was the platoon sergeant, and he said, "Flip your bilge pumps on." And so we flipped our bilge pumps on, and you're talking about I'm trying to do it in metric.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know, about a 4-inch wide stream of water. So what is that? I don't know. Many
Yeah.
centimeters, many centimeters. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the size of a Campbell soup can.
Yeah.
And we start spraying all these people down. Well, that got them back, and then we just continued mission.
But I didn't really follow. Was this Koreans partying, or it was Americans partying?
No, no, it was Koreans. The
It was
Koreans
Korean.
were
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, they were just bar hopping or having
Yeah.
their Saturday night on their dates with friends and family, and it was say like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night,
Oh
and
yeah.
their festivities are in full swing, I guess.
Yeah. That's gonna be really hard to explain if you actually managed to kill that guy. That's gonna be really tough. But you actually managed. You just kept on driving at that point? Or you
Yeah, we
pulled
just
on
kept going.
the nasty water?
Yeah, no, he didn't bounce off my tank. I just
Yeah.
happened to be a tank or two behind the one
Yeah.
that he bounced off. But yeah, you can't stop. We have 64 tanks. That's a battalion size road march. And then plus you have your fuel trucks and your ammo trucks and your medics and everybody else, your engineers and your all right. So let's say, do you remember have you heard the Battle of 73 Easting from Iraq? The Road of Death. Have you seen that story or heard
Yeah.
anything about it?
I heard a bit of it, but you can see if you can narrow it down a bit. Just refresh
Sure.
my memory.
So there is a very long convoy of people, we assume soldiers, that are fleeing from wherever they were fleeing from. Now, if you want to catch these convoys and kill all of the equipment, the first thing you do is you destroy the first vehicle,
Yeah.
right? And then you destroy the rear vehicle. And now all the vehicles in the middle are stuck, and you can just at your leisure, you know, take
Take
your
them on.
shots or whatever.
Yeah.
So as we are in a road march, just moving from the gunnery, which was MPRC, multi-purpose range complex, back to Camp Casey, we are in a tactical road march. Now, if that man gets run over and we stop, well, now you have all this equipment's at risk, right? We don't know. We're in a foreign country. I mean, it's highly unlikely that anybody's going to shoot us with a bazooka because we run over some guy, but you never know, right? You don't take any chances. So you don't stop off post in a tactical road march, like for any reason.
For any
Car pulls
reason.
out in
Yeah.
front of you, you just keep going. Yeah. Unless ordered to do so, to stop, which I wouldn't, that's not my call.
Yeah, I understand. But you did a lot of training missions in Korea then. Like all the
Yes,
time. Yeah.
all the time. All the time. We were out there for 30, like I said, 30 or 45 days. It's called a field problem. And we would go to Tent City and we'd live in a GP medium. And we'd be out there for a month and a half, and come back and we would have 2 or 3 days off, and then they would blow an alert 2 o'clock in the morning. If you're drunk, it don't matter what you are. If you're with your lady friend, you just got to stop what you're doing and you go directly to to the barracks so you can go down to the arms room and start drawing your equipment. So yeah, you train all the time,
How
like
long
all.
how long were you in Korea then?
Oh, right at 3 years.
Oh, was that one tour?
Normally, yeah. Well, no, it was three. Normally you just go for a year
Yeah.
and then you go to another duty station. But I had been down there a couple of weeks and I met a Filipino girl
Oh, yeah.
and we hit it off and everything was cool and man, I just decided to stay when my year was up. And they gave us a $5,000 bonus to stay. I had me a girlfriend that liked my unit, and so I stayed. And so that's pretty much what I did.
So they gave you you kept doing what you did for 3 years with the
Yeah.
agent. Yeah. So they paid you
Yep.
5,000 just to stay another year and another year to get like
Yeah,
10.
and
Yeah.
right, it was like a sign-on bonus, I guess
Oh,
kids get nowadays for signing the military, but
yeah.
uh, back then it was just like a re-enlistment bonus for Korea. They didn't do that the second time I re-upped for Korea. It was
Oh,
just that one time, so that was unfortunate.
yeah. So during these 3 years, was it like training missions all over again? That was,
Yes,
yeah.
that was it. Yep.
That's it's how did that like did that somehow affect you like mentally or physically, or was it did you just basically just drove? But was there any part when you felt like you're not, I'm not gonna, I don't know how to say this, but did you feel like you enjoyed this 3 years?
Yes.
Yeah, I would did
The
too.
army, let me tell you, the army is fun.
Yeah,
I don't know how it is nowadays. When I went in the army, drill sergeants could still put their hands on you.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
went through when the army was army. Now that's not going to hold a candle to the people that went in, Vietnam era. They got their butts kicked by their drill sergeant. We might just get shoved up against the wall. And the kids nowadays, man, oh, here's my stress card, please. You're hurting my feelings. Oh my God.
but
Anyway, so
yeah,
this is
go,
going to be more of a personal thing for me than just straight military. But you asked, what did I get out of the military? When I was in high school, man, I got picked on a lot. I had no confidence. I was scared of the wind blowing. I was the one that all the jocks picked on. And when I went in the military, all of that changed. I can learn to do stuff and do stuff that's cool that I used to think only other people could do. Well, nothing's stopping me but myself. I learned confidence and I learned that it's okay to take a step forward. You know, uh, one example here, and I'm gonna try not to go off too many offshoots, but that's a pretty big question you asked for me. I was working a job and a guy had fallen. His hand had slipped off the brake off this piece of equipment that he was using, and each wheel had its own brake, and so it starts spinning in circles and slings him off and then starts going on its own with no rider towards this brand new truck. And there's probably 20 of us standing outside, and I don't know what to do. But I take a step forward because I'm going to try to see where this thing's going, and I don't know how to operate the equipment, but if I can help, I will. Well, the boss man comes flying out of nowhere, stops the machine, and that's it. Well, later on, I think it was the next day, he called everybody in the office and he watched the security camera. Out of all those people that were standing outside, there was only one person that stepped forward to see if they could help, and that was me.
yeah.
And now, before the military, I never would have done that, but after the military, I do. So I don't know. That's one thing
That's a
that the military
yeah,
changed for me.
yeah,
It's the guy that helps the officer that's fighting on the side of the street. Hey, officer, is there something I can do for you? You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah,
kind of what the military gives you. That's the reason I went in. It's that mentality.
yeah. You're talking about courage and the ability to react when no one else is actually reacting.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's not always, and to tie in with the whole bullying thing from the beginning. The reason I'd said that, I'd forgotten my point at the time, is that, it's not always about whether you win or lose, but I bet you they'll pick on somebody else
Yeah.
next time. You know what I mean? So I learned that lesson also. It's respect. You have self-respect. Even if you take a bloody nose, it doesn't matter. You respect yourself. That whole saying about uh, living on your, you'll die on your feet before you live on your knees. Man,
Yeah.
that's a very true statement, and everybody would benefit from listening to that. Anyway, I'm getting off topic, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No worries. We're talking about you and your story. So you did 3 years in a tank, and you you learned a bit more self respect, a bit of a courage, becoming a better man, better human.
Well,
Is that
well,
correct?
becoming a man at all. Well,
Yeah.
becoming a man at all, I think,
Yeah.
instead of a scared child.
3 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did one. I couldn't imagine doing three, to be honest.
Hey, but you should still be thankful for your service too, because there's a lot of people out there that like to point fingers and complain and tell you how things should be done, but they will not go volunteer.
Yeah. Yeah. You got that
It's
right.
easy to sit back when somebody else is making the sacrifice. So thank you for your service
Yeah.
and those people that go, into combat and all that good stuff.
So you were the driver of the Abrams, correct?
For a period of time, I
Yeah.
mean, you kind of move up when you start off. You're a loader,
Yeah. Oh.
and
Yeah.
yeah, the loader is the first. It's the most disposable position, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And if you need to go check out to see if there's a landmine in the road or something that needs to go looked at, the loader's the one that goes, because if worst case scenario and he gets taken out, the gunner can load and the commander can shoot the gun. The driver can't get out of the driver's hole. So yeah, the loader's the low guy on the totem pole, and I did that for a little while. I was excellence in armor, and if there's any tankers out there listening, you know what I'm talking about. Which means that I never missed a single question on any test, written test in the Army, and I made 100 on all sections of the physical
Love
on
it.
the PP test. So there were 7 of us out of the company of 154 people, and that we were in excellence in armor. And so as soon as we classified excellence in armor, they gave us a promotion. So we got promoted in basic training halfway through. And then at graduation, if we graduated still in excellence in armor, we got a second promotion to private first class. So I was actually lucky enough to be promoted twice in basic training. So I wasn't a loader for long, and I moved to driver, which is the next best position. And I did that for most of the time. We did have a gunner that had an injury, and so I moved up as a PFC gunner, and
Yeah.
so I was a gunner for 2 different field problems, or 2 different trips out to the field, to go to gunnery. So that was pretty cool. But we did get a specialist, which was higher ranked than me, and he came in and took the gunner spot back over, and I went back down to driver. But it wasn't a performance issue; it was just he had more rank.
Yeah. I get that. So how is
Yeah.
it to drive so in my mind when I look at like movies, I haven't seen any like modern movie on how to look inside, how to drive, but in my mind you control left side and the right side tank using levers. Is that correct? So if you
All right.
pull
The old
one, yeah, go. Yeah, go.
the old school vehicles, you had 2 levers.
Yeah.
But the Abrams has they call it a T handle. Let's just say you're riding a bike, right? You have your handlebars,
Yeah.
and if you push it's like levered in the middle, right? So you can turn it kind of like, I don't know, a wagon wheel or something, an old steering wheel. So you like a motorcycle, you pull back on the throttle, right? You roll it back to go fast,
Yeah.
and then you can push forward with your right or push forward with your left. If you don't do either one of them, then the tank goes straight.
Oh,
But if you push forward with your right, the right track goes a little faster, and the left track goes a little slower. Now there's a
yeah.
pivot and a neutral steer also. If you pivot, if you have the transmission in pivot, um, one track will stay still and only one track will move, depending on which track you tell to go forward. And then you have neutral steer, which one track will move in one direction and the other track will move in the other direction, depending on which way you have the handle. And then regular driving, they both move in the same direction, but at varying speeds.
Amazing. Yeah, my knowledge of tanks is like from the Second World War, so I'm just not gonna get involved with that. Sounds really cool though.
If you got 3 or 4 hours here, I'll get you squared away.
we can do that outside the podcast. You can learn theoretically how to drive on Abrams. I would love just knowing that. Just walk around knowing that I know how in theory how to
It's
drive
like
on Abrams.
it's basically a 73-ton Cadillac. It's the most
Yeah.
smoothest air ride that you will ever ride. It is so smooth. Bumps or whatever, you hardly feel them. You just go floating over the ground. Yeah, man, it's a pretty smooth ride. It's and you're real good on control. It stops on a dime,
Yeah.
and it'll take you quick.
And you drove one with poo water in it too, so you got some serious. You got some serious experience.
Doo-doo. Yeah,
Do water.
yeah,
So
yeah.
did anything in that during your 3 times? I know it changed who you are. Was there anything else that you felt like you did your service, and when you got out, was that a feeling of accomplishment? You feeling of I did my time, and what happened after when you actually left service?
Okay. Well, when I left service, I had mixed emotions. Yes, I felt accomplished, but yes, I had regret, and there was a bit of uncertainty. Um, I'm going to be a bit arrogant here, and I apologize, but what I tell you is true. Uh, so I'm just going to speak the facts.
Do it.
I was probably the best loader. Okay. When we went to gunnery, I would load for 3 different tanks. I would load for the platoon sergeant, and I loaded for the company commander's tank. That's so they could get a good score at their gunnery.
Oh,
So after I
yeah.
finished driving for mine, I would go and I would load, for Sergeant Samuels, and because I was just faster, I was an outstanding driver. We would have different tests where you would go full speed, and there would be a post in the ground, and you had to go from full speed to full braking, nothing in between, and stop as close as you could to that pole without touching it. And then I would just have a couple of inches, be real smooth to provide a stable firing platform for the weapon. You don't want to hit bumps too big and smash your gunner's teeth out on the gunner primary sight. So I felt that I was above most other people as far as performing the job. But every time somebody new would come in, and they would be buddies with the commander, or they would be buddies with the platoon sergeant, it seemed like they would get the promotion. Here I am looking to move to specialist, and then possibly either a lateral promotion to corporal or straight up to a sergeant if I were to re-enlist after my 4 years. But it seemed like other people, they were buddies, they would get the preferential treatment. Even if you had guard duty on Battalion Red and you went out and you knew all your questions and your stuff was pressed and boots were spit shined and everything, even if you looked better than the other person, you had more done, it seemed like they would get the day off. And so that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. I believe now older that it was probably just due to my youth and selfishness at the time. I felt like I should be above others, which that's not really the way you should be. But anyway, so I felt like that the army really wasn't about the job you do. I felt like it was who you knew, and I got out. And now looking back, what if it was just that duty station? I never went anywhere other than Korea. What if I had come back and went to Fort Hood and got rapid deployed to Iraq and all that? Would my experience have been different? Would I have, gotten out of the who you knew and not how good you did your job, kind of rut? So that was a little bit of uncertainty. I regret getting out of the military. I believe I should have gone, stayed in. That another thing with my high school diploma. I really regret not having that. because instead of going to the Air Force and getting my license for free as well as a commercial license for free, I had to get out and buy my own. I had to pay for my own pilot's license, and there ain't going to be no, commercial because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and so I really missed out a lot, and I think I should have stayed in, to be honest. So I regret getting out. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, that was whoa, I got it all caught up with that. Yeah, I understand the situation you were in, and I understand your regret. But I think that you were right. I think some people just get a bit more because they know the right people, and that is definitely not limited to the military whatsoever. And that is just a normal civilian job. That some people know the right individual, and they just move past you without like not working as hard as you are. So I completely get that. You left, and now you're a civilian. Uh, what happened? What did you do directly after?
Shoot, man, that was a long time ago. You asking me stuff I can think about in forever. What did I do? There's really not any civilian jobs, for an ex-tanker, you
Uh-huh.
know?
Yeah.
If I was in computers or something like that, it would have been great, or planes, but there's not much for a tanker. I know I went to, that was right about the same time. I became a mechanic, auto mechanic. I learned how to change oil, got hired on at a place, I believe, Modus back in the day, and stayed there a year or so and became store manager and lead mechanic and learned how to weld, and the rest is it. I've been out, 20 years now, 22 years, and sometimes at work I will still sing cadences.
Yeah,
I just can't help it.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up here, Daniel. We've been going on for a
Good.
bit here, and I had a blast. I enjoyed every word. I hang on to every word you said, and thank you so much for sharing.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I'll be forward to looking into your next video you upload.
Thank you so much. To everyone who's currently listening, thank you so much for listening to me and Daniel on the Share Your Story Military Podcast. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Have a good one.